that feeling when you're trying to make a change, maybe start something new, but you just keep hitting the same, like, invisible wall?
Yeah, or maybe it's that sense of just being constantly overwhelmed and it won't let go.
Exactly. It's like you're running on a hamster wheel, sort of stuck.
That feeling, being stuck in a rut, is something, well, a lot of people experience. And what's really fascinating, what we're diving into today, is how your body is actually involved in keeping that cycle going.
Okay.
So today we're doing a deep dive into an article from mysticalabundance.blogspot.com. It's called The Body Remembers, From Stress to Abundance.
The body remembers. From stress to abundance, that sounds like exactly what a lot of us might need. So what's the plan? What are we hoping folks take away?
Our goal really is to unpack this cycle of stress that the article talks about, how your thoughts, your emotions, and your body's chemistry get so tangled up.
Okay.
But more importantly, we want to give you some, practical insights, ways you can actually interrupt that cycle.
Interrupt it.
And start moving towards what the article calls abundance. Now, that's not really about money or stuff.
Not material wealth.
No, exactly. It's more a state of creativity, rest, repair, genuine restoration within yourself. So think of this as maybe a shortcut to understanding a really key concept for your well-being.
Okay, I'm ready. Let's unpack it. The article starts off saying humans are essentially an electrical being inside a chemical body. That sounds fundamental. What's the basic idea there?
It is fundamental. The article touches on our building blocks, oxygen, carbon, hydrogen, all that.
Right, basic chemistry.
But the key thing to grasp is how these elements drive bioelectrical processes, specifically the movement of ions.
Ions, those little charged particles.
Exactly. Tiny charged particles moving across the membranes of your nerve cells. That movement creates small electrical charges.
Okay.
And these charges travel as signals along nerve pathways, straight to your brain. And then, as the article puts it quite simply, voila, you have a thought.
So even a fleeting thought has a real physical electrical basis inside us.
Precisely. It's grounded in this tangible biological activity.
That's quite something. Okay, so thoughts are electrical sparks. Then the article says thoughts trigger emotions. How does that chemical cascade work?
Right, so you have a thought. That thought activates specific neural circuits in your brain, like little pathways.
Okay.
These circuits, which are interconnected neurons, then release chemical messengers. You've probably heard of them, neurotransmitters, hormones.
Sure, dopamine, serotonin, those kinds of things.
Exactly. Those chemicals travel through your nervous system, your bloodstream, and they directly influence how you feel, your mental and emotional state. And what's really interesting here is the difference the article points out.
Between positive and negative thoughts.
Yes. Positive thoughts, positive experiences, they trigger the release of those feel-good chemicals you mentioned, dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, endorphins. These support your parasympathetic nervous system. That's the system responsible for calming you down, promoting, like the article says, creativity, rest, repair, restoration. That leads to feelings like gratitude, joy, inspiration.
Makes sense. And the flip side, limiting thoughts.
Well, limiting thoughts do the opposite. They trigger stress chemicals like cortisol and adrenaline.
The famous ones?
Yeah, they activate the sympathetic nervous system, your body's stress response, basically. And that reinforces negative emotions, things like indifference, despair, fear. So the key thing is the quality of your thoughts directly shapes your body's chemistry and how you feel.
So thoughts spark the chemicals, creating the emotion. But then the article says emotions influence chemistry. It's not just a one-way street then.
Not at all. It's a loop. When your brain assigns meaning to a thought, it generates that chemical response in your body. And that's what you feel as an emotion.
Okay.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Every time you feel that emotion, you reinforce the chemical state, which then confirms the original thought that started it all.
So the feeling sort of proves the thought, right, in a way.
Exactly. Thoughts create feelings. Feelings reinforce thoughts. It becomes this self-sustaining loop. And if you keep thinking the same stuff, feeling the same way, you're basically conditioning your body to stay locked in that pattern.
It's almost like the body remembers that feeling, that chemical state. The article even says the body can produce the same chemicals without any conscious input. That sounds a bit unsettling.
It can seem that way, but it's a really crucial insight. Over time, these repeated emotional responses become conditioned. Your body gets used to them, memorizes these chemical states.
So the feeling can actually start driving the thinking.
Precisely. That's what the article means when it says the body is leading the mind. What started as maybe a conscious thought becomes almost automatic, reactive. The subconscious program just runs.
Okay, so this cycle keeps going. What's next? The article mentions chemistry reinforces feelings and a danger response.
Right. So there's some kind of internal conflict maybe between where you are now and where you want to be. Your brain can interpret that mismatch as a threat.
A danger signal, even if nothing bad is actually happening outside.
Yes. Internally, it senses danger. So it triggers the sympathetic nervous system, releasing cortisol and adrenaline. That's your classic fight or flight. Your heart speeds up, breathing gets shallow, senses sharpen, focus narrows right down to the problem. Your whole system, brain, mind, body, gears up for action, even if the threat is just a persistent, stressful thought.
Wow. So your body reacts physically as if there's a real external danger, just based on internal conflict. And how does that reinforce the feelings?
Well, that physical change, the racing heart, the tension, it validates those initial stressful thoughts and emotions. Your body's reaction basically confirms to your mind, see, there is danger.
Right.
It solidifies the very feelings that kicked it off, a real vicious cycle.
And that locks you into what the article calls feeling skew thoughts, that stress feedback loop.
Exactly. This is where it gets really sticky. That loop keeps you in that state of stress, survival mode. And the subconscious mind, as the article points out, it's like an indiscriminate recording device.
Doesn't judge.
Doesn't judge. It just accepts whatever your conscious mind keeps feeding it repeated thoughts, intense emotions. It doesn't know fact from fiction. It just stores it.
So if you keep thinking, I can't do this, or feeling anxious,
Your subconscious basically accepts that as truth. And when that truth doesn't match what you consciously want, boom, internal conflict, stress, more limiting emotions, and the loop tightens. Your subconscious treats those negative patterns as reality.
even if they aren't serving you at all. Then this all comes together with thoughts drive actions and that big statement, the body is the mind. That's powerful.
It really is. The article is emphasizing that the longer you're in this stress cycle, the more your body gets conditioned to expect stress. It anticipates it,
Even if there's no current trigger.
even with no external trigger. Your subconscious uses all those past emotional experiences, those chemical memories, to interpret what's happening now. And it sort of predicts the future based on that past, leading to automatic reactions.
So the body doesn't even need a conscious thought anymore to flip the stress switch.
Not necessarily. It could automatically reproduce that familiar internal state. The present moment gets filtered through the lens of past stress, and like the article says, the conscious mind goes unconscious and the body takes over.
The body takes over. Wow.
So the crucial idea is that your body isn't just passive, it's actively shaping your thoughts and actions based on these learned emotional patterns.
Okay, so let's recap that loop. Thoughts trigger emotions.
Emotions influence chemistry.
Chemistry reinforces feelings.
Feelings skew thoughts.
And thoughts drive actions, often unconsciously through the body. Phew, that sounds, well, pretty entrenched for a lot of us. How on earth do you break out of that?
It sounds daunting, I know. But the article offers a really crucial first step. Become aware that you are aware. Interrupting the loop starts right there with conscious awareness. Noticing those patterns of thought, feeling, and behavior that we're running on autopilot.
So like catching yourself in the act.
Exactly. It involves intentionally deciding to observe your internal state, objectively if you can. Becoming present with your thoughts, your emotions, without necessarily reacting to them immediately, and starting to align them with who you want to be. So step one is just notice.
Just notice without judgment. Okay.
Yeah. And every time you consciously interrupt that familiar, maybe negative emotional pattern, you catch yourself spiraling and you pause, you redirect your focus to now, you stop feeding energy into the past, you're actually sending a new signal.
A signal to your brain and body.
Like a whole system, brain, mind, body. You're signaling that a new internal reality is possible, is unfolding. This conscious interruption creates space.
Space for what?
Space for different patterns. More creative, more positive ways of thinking, feeling, behaving that actually line up with the future you want, not the past you're stuck in. That's how you start taking back the reins.
And that leads to moving from stress back to creativity, as the article says. It mentions shifting focus.
Right. Think about it. When you're stressed, your focus narrows.
Right.
You're scanning for threats, thinking about what could go wrong, needing to control things for safety. That uses up so much energy.
Totally. Tunnel vision.
Exactly. But when you create a genuine sense of safety inside, when your body isn't constantly prepping for disaster, your awareness can relax, return to the present moment.
Okay.
And that shift allows energy to be redirected inwards. towards things like curiosity, imagination, creativity. Your prefrontal cortex, the thinking part of your brain, gets more active. Your attention broadens. You actually start seeing new possibilities.
So calming the stress response physically frees up mental energy for better things.
Pretty much, yeah. You're moving resources away from survival mode and into creation mode, which leads nicely into the next idea the article presents, embodying the future self. That sounds intriguing, right?
It does. Embodying the future self. What does that mean exactly?
Well, the article suggests you assume the thoughts, feelings, and behaviors of your ideal self in the present moment. It uses an actor analogy, like an actor stepping into a role.
So act as if.
Kind of,
Huh.
but deeper. It's about asking yourself, if I were already that person, I want to become that calmer, more creative, abundant version. How would I be thinking right now? How would I be feeling? What would I be doing?
Okay, so bringing those future qualities into the present.
Exactly. Actively aligning your current thoughts, feelings, actions with that desired version of you. Stepping into that role now, making it your reality now.
It sounds like a form of mental rehearsal. But instead of replaying old worries.
Right. It says spending all that mental energy looping through negative stuff, which we often do on autopilot.
Guilty.
The article asks, wouldn't that energy be better spent aligning with what you do want? It encourages using that energy to rehearse the future you deserve through visualization, through feeling it now.
So you make that future self more familiar, more real in your mind and body.
Precisely. So it becomes more natural to actually be that person in your day-to-day life. It's a really powerful tool you can start using literally today.
Okay, so wrapping this up, the big takeaway seems to be that conscious awareness is the key. It interrupts that automatic stress loop.
It absolutely is. That awareness allows you to shift out of survival mode and into a more creative, what the article calls abundant state.
And by getting your body, mind, and brain aligned.
You allow your conscious mind to take the lead again, supporting actions that come from inspiration, not just reaction. You stop letting the body's old stress programs run the show.
You respond to new signals that support where you want to go.
Exactly. Toward that state of abundance, creativity, and well-being.
The article finishes with some really great questions for everyone listening to think about. What changes in your mental framework can you make to foster a more creative perspective and open your mind to new possibilities and opportunities in your life?
And what adjustments can you make to align with a state that invites inspiration to drive your actions in the present moment? Really powerful questions to sit with.
Definitely food for thought. It's about taking this knowledge and actually applying it.
That's the goal, making it real in your own experience.
Well, if you want to explore this more deeply for yourself, definitely check out the source article over at mysticalabundance.blogspot.com.
And you can also find Mystical Abundance on social media too. The handle is @mysticalabundance1111.
Great. And hey, if this deep dive resonated with you, if you found it valuable,
please do like it, leave a comment, subscribe if you haven't, and maybe share it with friends or family who you think might benefit from understanding this stress cycle a bit better.
Yeah, spread the word. We really believe this understanding can empower people to make some real positive shifts.